Hey guys, coming back for Alchemy 7. I wanted to share some of the archetypal themes that I got to play with and experience and kind of witness, observe playing out in my space, in my relationships, um, on the outer stage and in the inner stage. So this has been kind of an interesting play. And I have Mr. Burns with me. So, always, yeah, had the hardest time like accepting like this archetype, this persona, this role, this like villain, this miser, yeah, this greedy like son of a bitch right here, Mr. Burns. And so he's kind of like the archetypal Scrooge, Ebenezer. Um, yeah, just, he's grinchy. His heart's like 3 times too small. It's shrunk. And like, yeah, that's like the person or the aspect or the mask, the persona that isn't generous and for whatever reason doesn't like to give or doesn't have anything to give, maybe doesn't feel like they want to give or they have anything to give, or yeah, it's all about take and forgetting. Life is forgetting, like that's forgetting that, it's forgiving and forgiveness, and yeah, that's what life is, expressing and giving what we have to be, share, offer, free, receive, and give. Live. That's what life is. And so, yeah, I'm reminded by Mr. Burns, like, when it's an impersonal character in an impersonal story, just like that's just Mr. Burns, that's just the role he plays, But when it comes into play personally, like in our personal relationships or in in our relationships with ourselves, and the martyr and the miser, yeah, is a little bit more prickly and different and a little bit more challenging to love and to understand and to welcome and to invite and to like invite to tea and get to know, And so, I don't know if in the previous videos you guys noticed like all the beautiful like symbols and things that I have in my space, but yeah, they really do like kind of alter our states of consciousness. Certain images do, and yeah, and open up things in our space. And sometimes even if we don't realize it, like with our conscious minds, it does activate something within in our unconscious mind. And yeah, it can help like bring some of that flow in. And yeah, but what I have behind me right now is a soul storyboard, and I made these a couple months ago, where I just like had a creative explosion and I made like just a ton of them in February, before the end of February, or no, I guess it was the end of January that I did this. It was before February began. So it was just like, yeah, something that wanted to come through, and I made about like 13 of these huge boards. And then I realized later like why and what they were about, and it was all about this. So integration and the labyrinth and the journey. And so what's like right here behind me, it's just like the labyrinth, it's the maze, it's about that mythology. And there's the Minotaur over here. And this board was telling me, like, sit down, make friends with your fears, make friends with this Minotaur here, and bring him to tea, get to know him, and like, yeah, just like initiate some kind of a space to like to understand and to know like what my fears are and what wants to be reclaimed, what wants to be included and integrated. And so I feel like, yeah, that it's all about like, yeah, making peace with our fears, or actually just knowing where our vulnerabilities are, or where our limitations are, or where, you know, there's unhealed, unclaimed, unloved aspects that are asking for reception and inclusion and integration, reception, or maybe understanding, or acknowledgement and forgiveness. And so, yeah, just looking at those things too, like when certain things come up, like maybe they're not totally awful, you know, maybe it's just the description that makes us think that it's something terrible. Well, what if it is actually something that's really beautiful? You know, something that scares us is the best thing for us sometimes. Like maybe sometimes we're afraid of what's best for us, what's going to show us how powerful we are, you know? And so, yeah, it's good just to look at those things and acknowledge those things. The cave we fear to enter holds the treasure that we seek. And that quote, like, has been coming up, that little message. So, yeah, what we're seeking is what's seeking we. So if we need something, there's some kind of love we're needing, then that same love needs we. And so, like, just invite it and welcome it and open, make the space to receive. Make the space for it to be welcomed. Make the space for it to be. Make the space for it to be received, or to be freed to be received. And so, looking at that, and so the miser has come to show, you know, that she is right, and she's asking for inclusivity. And so, yeah, just like that's a really hard part of myself that I've had a challenging time loving, is the miser. Because really, I love to give, and I love to be generous. And so, like, of course, that's when I feel like most lovable, maybe, too, is like when I'm giving, and when I'm forgiving, and when I'm feeling generous, and when I have a lot to give. But then I realized maybe sometimes it's right to protect ourselves from, like, you know, relationships that aren't honoring of our energy and what we're offering and giving, and it's not being appreciated or reciprocated or acknowledged or honored, you know, or seen as it's been given. And maybe sometimes, like, it's time to withdraw our energy and fill our own cup. And instead of, like, judging ourselves for being miserly, maybe it's like, thank you for helping me set my boundaries and helping me see that this dynamic wasn't working for me, and I'm not doing a service to myself or the other, and, you know, continuing that dynamic. And so maybe it's like, right, even though part of me wanted to knee-jerk react the miser when I saw her come up, I was like, okay, wait, like, can I allow all of her to be? And that means, like, generous and miserly, because both are right and both are a part of the other, and both have their purpose and their place and their right to be. So, like, instead of just automatically rejecting the miser and getting all mad and bent at the miser and the rejection that I felt with the miser was, projecting, I decided, to see what else I could see about it, and to see about her, and to see about me, to see about we. And that was interesting. That brought up a lot of things. It brought up a lot of stories to see, and some of my feelings about generosity, like how I feel like people really haven't been very generous with me, like, or allowing or understanding of me, of my full expression, and how I choose to be me. And it's like, yeah, I kind of felt like it was a little bit disallowing and it was disingenuous. And it was like, you only want me when it's like, when it's comfortable, not when I'm challenging. So it was kind of funny. It was like, okay, that's the story. It's like, you don't want all of me, you won't allow all of me. You only want what's comfortable for you, and not the parts that challenge you. So it's like, I always turn that around on its head too. Like, okay, how can that apply to me? Like, if I'm feeling that way, how do I, maybe reciprocate or project that as well? Not allowing the fullness and like only wanting it to be comfortable some, certain times, and then when I'm challenged, wanting to reject it, wanting to reject her, wanting to reject me, whatever it is. Yeah. Hope that makes sense, like in certain ways. So I got to see that on multiple levels and how it popped up in my relationship with a sister, and how it also was reflected in an inner dynamic on the inner stage of that relationship with me, as far as my giver and my miser go. And my miser and my giver are part of the same thing. And so, like, yeah, just knowing that that miser actually was an ally and a protector, a part of my energy for my boundaries that I get to honor. And so, and also, it's okay, like, some people don't appreciate like what we're offering, and so we can withdraw, like, and that's not like miserly, that's just being protective, and that's setting boundaries of like, well, okay, yeah, that's not going to work for me, and yeah, maybe renegotiate here, like what the agreement is, what the agreement's been, revoke consent, and know that all debt is paid. There's no debt. No one owes anyone anything, and that's like, that's free for me. That was a good way to like kind of neutralize the miser, where okay, there's no debt here. Nobody has to pay back anything. It's not like anyone's better than or lesser than, because there was like that little thing that wanted to spin into its own thing, but this kind of sidestepped that, like kind of aware of like how our stories can tangle us up in different webs, like in victim, martyr, miser, yeah, villain kind of mentality. Yeah, so just meant to disempower and distract and divide and conquer, all of that. Like activate the pain body and the wound and like turn us against, yeah. Yeah, turn us against ourselves or each other. And so, yeah, I do, like, there's so many things that I want to talk about and relate, because there are so many dreams that related to, like, when I was trying to work out. And there is a lot of good emotions and a lot of good things that came up around, like, having this interaction with a sister, and like it being connected to like a family pattern, like a generational pattern of some kind. And that's why it is like a little more personal and a little more intense, a little more tricky to navigate when it's that up close and personal too, because yeah, there's so many things like with history, with our stories, his stories, her stories, our stories, like that activate like certain wounded aspects and things. So it really does take some discipline and some focus and some like making the room, and just watching, suspending, allowing, all of that. So I kind of felt like the black sheep again. Like that's one of the old stories from my childhood or teenage years and 20s and all of that, like where I was the black sheep. I felt like the black sheep of the family, and just because I did my own thing, and I always kind of wanted to march to the beat of my own drum anyways, but like it was still hard for me to feel like I didn't belong or fit in, or that I was somehow an outcast or an orphan or a defect or whatever, like a reject. And one of my myths that I love and that is so like fitting is the ugly duckling too, like where I always thought, yeah, I was supposed to be this duck, but I'm actually a swan. So it's all right, you know. It's all good. But yeah, like just yeah, after overcoming like that black sheep feeling or that ugly duckling feeling, like because I know I belong here and I know of my gifts and I know my fullness and all of that. And so like yeah, but it was funny, like kind of being put back in there in a sort of like wounded childlike state, feeling like an orphan, feeling abandoned because certain family members or friends haven't been present. Feel like either they've been avoided or I felt like harsh judgments come from them, either in the physical or the astral planes. Harsh judgments and labels and even gossip and talking smack has, yeah, it echoes and reverberates back, you know? So, and it's like, yeah, just don't take that personally because that's how, like, they use their energy to protect themselves, sometimes, like, defend and attack, and they don't even realize they're doing that. Like, to protect the ego, whatever's on the pedestal, the identity, the false self, this false personality, like how we make sense of our reality. Sometimes we identify and we attach to all of those beliefs and that form our identity. And so it's really not about me or anything really, but it's kind of, it does hurt my feelings sometimes when like I feel like I'm being ganged up on or that like I'm being like judged unfairly or like then there's bullshit being heaped upon, like, you know, and it's like, yeah, it's okay, I don't need to agree to that emotional garbage and it's not about me. So it's, in a way, it's easy not to take it personally, but then in another way, when it feels like a rejection of my energy or my goodwill or my generosity, then that is when it stings. Yeah, and that's when it, yeah, really triggers. So that's just what it gets to be, and it's like, okay. Instead of getting upset about like something uncomfortable happening, it was like, okay, well, what is this gift? And what do I get to learn from it? What do I get to do with it? And what is it asking me to include and reclaim? And to see, you know, so integrate. And it also kind of like, it feels like it was set off by my desire to understand how to reach people, how to get through to people, how do we speak with each other, how do we make the room for, you know, multiple perspectives and exchange and cooperation, and can we make room for each other to change our own minds, can we make room for each other to like to not change. I mean, we can choose not to change and that's our choice. I guess, but like change really is the essence of life, and so if we're not growing and we're not changing, then we're choosing death, you know. We might as well be dying every day, like in certain ways. So yeah, like, can we be open to change? Can we make the room for change? Change that contributes to our fullness, to our generosity, to our generative powers of creativity, to our potentiality, to growing, you know, like, and to future strengths. So, yeah, so yeah, after that, after I realized like a certain level of programming like, because I knew like I was operating on some unconscious programs too, and I was just like willing to see those, and I got to see them, yeah, and it was really cool to understand like how like they'd been activated and how how they kind of get replayed, yeah, through certain stories or scripts with the better than, less than, I'm right, you're wrong kind of thing. And like, yeah, I've really been wanting to move beyond that, like, seriously, in a lot of ways. So I feel like I broke through in certain ways for me, and I had this dream that my phone like shattered in a bunch of different pieces. There was a bunch of different large shards and pieces, but it was like a spell had been broken, and that was like a week ago that I had that. Like I knew that, like, yeah, there would be a breakthrough there, and I would be able to see more clearly. And so, but it's kind of funny, like as soon as like that lesson's done, and then there's one other one that's gonna come up, and it's like, oh goodness, let's like brace ourselves for endurance, because this is, yeah, this year is potent and it's got all of it in it. So as soon as we complete or are on our way pretty well with one task, you know, it's another task, it's multitask, but the tasks are all related. And so, yeah, I'll just read a little bit from my journal here. June 12th. I feel like I've broken through a spell of illusion, confusion, and collusion. I had a dream at the beginning of this week that my phone shattered into pieces and shards. Pretty sure it was telling me to break the phone addiction. Silly rabbit, tricks are for fools. And so, yeah, I set my intentions, to clear my intentions, and kind of did like a little to-choose list, what I wanted to focus on, and yeah, what I wanted to share, what I wanted to express. And that was like, yeah, before my circle, and I had like all these awesome preparations and the space to make, to like create that, and I just absolutely loved that. That was so creative, like, and just helped my muse like so much, like, and sparked so many other things, so many inspired things. And so, yeah, since I started writing last week too, I just been continuing that, and so that's been another like established like repatterning happening. So that's a good, nourishing, generative thing for me to help keep me on track. And so I'm glad I'm like back with that. And I've been writing down my dreams and like making room for it all to be. And I wanted to share, yeah, this kind of this dream about being the black sheep, sort of, and it was interesting. So I'll just read this page. So Coyote, the trickster. So Coyote is at it again. Tricky devil. LOL, yeah. My dream. I'll contemplate and see how it relates. Suffering, compassion, and choosing love and forgiveness. Faith, trust, allowance, fullness, sovereignty. I am willing. I surrender it all. Let it be. Okay, so snippet of a dream. June 14th. This is, yeah. Family members with long stares and delayed blinks sitting around a large square or rectangle table. In a way, it's the Last Supper theme or a feeling. And so there's a couple of people sitting around the table that I have been or felt at odds with the last couple months, and I've felt harsh judgments coming from. And I'm not going to name them, but yeah, they're just family members that I love and that I've gotten to, like, yeah, have this little play with, have this little back and forth for reflection and projection kind of like play, yeah, archetype to play with. And so, and yes, it's somewhat discomforting. It's not very comfortable. So in real life and in my dream, I'm feeling like a black sheep. And then there's a teacher or a kind of guru, a father figure, a wise teacher, archetypal father, emperor, hierophant, maybe even a trickster. He's like the wise old man. That's this, the sacred clown, or he's got tricks up his sleeve because he's, wise, so he can play the fool. And fool it's all. So he seems like he's about 2 to 3 times older than me. He comes in the room and I've been expecting him. Maybe we can get through to these talking head cutouts. And because they've been so entranced. But they are genuinely having their own experience. And even if some of it's been hijacked and manipulated to control or influence their perceptions and directions, they're generally, having their own experience. So allow that experience to be. And they are passive, willing. They seem passive, but willing. Eager to be served what the popular culture deems best for the greater good, and would rather choose comforting lies over unpleasant truths. Yeah, because that's just the way that it is. That's how that's like how we've learned to live, Just kind of be uncomfortable. Yeah. Be comfortable with being uncomfortable, I guess. But so the guru comes in the room and we are drawn together. He's a mentor, a guide, a reflection, an ally, a magician. With sparkly eyes, mischief, goodwill, playful. He says something, we exchange, and then he picks me up, lifts me up, and spins me around the room, like so fast in so many different directions, like creating some kind of amazing pattern that no one understands yet. And our dance is intimate, innocent, true, wild, spontaneous energy in motion. And it feels freeing, liberating, energetic, generative, but I notice the judgments coming from their heads, or are they my own? Like, this guy is old enough to be her father. What is this about? Like, what are they doing? What is she doing? I don't understand. So they don't understand, and they're not even sure. I mean, I'm not even sure if they're even willing or if they're just unable to understand. And that's like one of the things is that need to understand. That need to understand. Like I wanted to understand and have that understanding return to me. But just knowing that it's okay. I'm willing to understand, but I can let go of the need to understand, and then I can ask love to show me what love needs, what love is asking, and be as understanding as I can be, and just let the rest be. So, but it is it's one of those things where I feel like maybe it is a control mechanism or a survival strategy to understand, so we know, we're not waiting for the other shoe to drop or whatever. Or, it's just kind of our fear of the unknown maybe as well. We kind of want to know so that we understand what we're dealing with. Yeah, in those kinds of ways. And so, maybe just letting go of the need to understand or to be understood, and just ask that truth and that love will be served and seen and acknowledged and received, freed to be. And maybe that's the best, the easiest, most allowing thing. So let go of the need to understand, but be willing to receive that understanding. So, but I'm not even sure if they are even willing to understand, or if they're just unable. And maybe they're stuck in group herd thinking or hive mind mentality, and it's just because they feel unstable, and it's like that group mentality. I think there's a quote by Bertrand Russell that says when the herd is in fear, any other person or group that's not part of the herd is treated with hostility and suspicion. It's protecting that survival. So it's kind of what it feels like in a way. It's not really personal, but it is kind of a knee-jerk reaction or survival strategy, that triggers some things. And so, but anyway, there was more to the dream. But it faded away. There's a lot of spinning around, so a lot of spinning, so maybe it's like a spiral of ascent and descent and all of that together. So the trickster fool and the wise one, and I realize that it's not my job to make them understand. I just get to keep spinning in motion and doing my best, and yeah, dancing. Yeah, I'll let go of the rest. And so what I got from this dream, though, like some of the feelings about it were self-importance, blame, burdens, judgments, like lesser than or better than, the martyr suffering for sins, the victim, the villain, the savior, the miser, the judge, reflections and projections. And I wrote, please help me understand, or allow and let it be. And so, yeah, that was like some of what was coming up for me, like with that, the black sheep, the devil, and also the tower and the crab, the crab, like, and the crab's armor and snapping and like protecting itself, and like the hermit, like wanting to isolate, like the hermit crab, and just being crabby, you know, like, yeah, because I guess certain people, if they feel like they're being pushed into a corner, they'll just lash out, you know, but like, yeah, so it's kind of funny. Healing jealousy and competition in the collective feminine, and sibling rivalry, Eris, discord, Pluto, death, regeneration, karmic conflicts, the golden apple, old resentments and wars, passive aggressive, old resentments, trust and distrust. Are we not enough, or is it the disallowance of our fullness? And so, like, yeah, those kinds of things coming up to the surface to be seen that relate to like what I've been asking, working with, and seeing, like what's asking for inclusivity and allowance and the room to be. So the room to be transformed, and the room to be acknowledged, and the room to be allowed, and the room to be integrated and harmonized, so, and honored. And so I'll just read one more thing, maybe. Such a great day, dark and light, was at play in the most magical, miraculous, and mysterious ways. And seeing things with more clarity and ease, allowing letting go is easier. I feel a little lighter, brighter every day as the sun reaches his, her, thy peak of ascension, fullness and abundance, freedom and ascension. Focus, magician, lens of perception, get clearer, redirection, rise, shine, do my best, receptive, open to reception of lessons, opportunities, gifts, all the love that's here for me and we, resources, sources, source is, resource is, resources, order all resources, resource is. Just playing with words there. And yeah, I think, yeah, it's probably gonna do it for a minute, but like, yeah, like I said, it's all like just making the space and being willing, yeah, and surrendering, creating that space and showing up, being present, being receptive, setting our intentions, choosing our focus, and remembering we can begin again anytime we need to, anytime we can remember ourselves. And yeah, come back into wholeness, fullness, return to ourselves, return to love, return to our fullness and that allowance, and like anything that we need within that well-being. If we need to set boundaries, we get to set boundaries. If we need to call in our miser to protect us, you know, protect ourselves and say, okay, right now, I don't have anything to give you. That's right, and that's okay. Like, that is. And so I'm grateful for that lesson, even though, like, yeah, sometimes it doesn't feel very good, like, to have it shown in certain ways, like, it's still right, and it still gets to be, and it gets to be what it is for inclusivity and fullness and balance and harmonization and transmutation, transformation, becoming what it is, becoming what it will be, becoming more full, free, whole, true, yeah, free, all of it, complete, and in the circle of all things. And so, like, yeah, lots of summer magic, and I feel like maybe next time I'd like to talk about, like, yeah, what we can do with the summer energies and the momentum, and with our own, like, manifestation and creations, like, as we, yeah, make the space to welcome in that receptivity. Like, what do we want to create? What do we have to work with? What resources can we call in? What resources can we call on? What resources can we more fully honor or see or acknowledge? Yeah. And who do we want to be? Who do we get to be? And who can we allow ourselves to be? Yeah. So, well, be well. Thanks for listening. We'll talk to you again soon.